So my wife has turned up missing. No note, nothing, just missing. I don't know, it's we've been together almost 10 years, and admittedly I've been married more times than I'd like to admit, and I just couldn't find anybody as compatible as Carolyn. Carolyn's been just an outstanding partner. Wow, it's just amazing. We met and we were both working at the same company. I guess we had a lot in common, or I don't even know if that's the right word. We just had the same interest, maybe. I know that neither one of us seemed to need much attention from the other, but when we need it, we're there for each other. Don't need a lot of communication. We hardly talk throughout the day. I mean, when a conversation comes up, it gets going pretty good, but there's rarely a lot of communication. We don't get in each other's way. You know, we decided we wanted to travel. This is different than anything I'd done before. I always had this primitive spirit, I guess is a good way to put it. I can attribute it to my childhood. I remember the day it happened. I went camping with my aunt and my cousin, and it was like that Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn spirit. It was really cool. And so since then, I've had this sense of, I don't want to say survivalist or woodsman or outdoorsman or anything. I mean, heck, I was on a submarine, so that can't be it. Whatever it is, when I met Carolyn, she had kind of a similar thing, I guess. We decided we wanted to go traveling for the same reasons. It's hard to communicate. There's no way I explain to you how this works, but between me and Carolyn, it works pretty good. And we traveled for 3 or 4 years. Admittedly, it wasn't like what we thought it would be, is the problem. When we got out there, I assumed that when you got out to the National Forest, there wasn't going to be anybody around. And it just wasn't the case. It was just the most populated place you could be. I remember one time we was in South Dakota, in the Black Hills, and there's a national forest there. I forget the name of it. Black Hills National Forest, I guess. Maybe that's what it is. We found this one place to park, and it was pretty busy. It was a kind of a ATV route, so there was a rental place down the hill. You could rent ATVs, and then you could ride it through the national forest. I said park, it's national forest, I guess. Well, later, after our walks, we took a lot of walks, we found a more recluse spot. So we went back in there. And some guy pulls up with a Class C RV. So you want some company? And I could just see it in Carolyn's eyes. And no, we don't want company. That's why we came out here. And I said, well, it's a national forest. You can park anywhere you want. I think they got the hint because I parked down the hill a ways. But it was just always busy. So it wasn't what we thought it was. Eventually we decided that we didn't want to do it simply because it wasn't what we thought it was supposed to be. I mean, you could tell us that we're stupid or whatever, but I mean, the advertisements that we got from the YouTubers, come out here and be with nature, no, come out here and be with the city folks. I mean, that's what it was. Just everybody was there. So when we went to Arizona, we went to National Forest next to Flagstaff, Arizona. I can't remember the name of the national forest. I mean, as soon as I get done with the video, I'll remember the name. But we went there, and it was a homeless camp. That's all it was. I mean, I remember there was this one guy, he had his lathe running on a generator, and he was making things, and he was trying to sell it, I guess, out there in Flagstaff. So, I mean, they were all homeless. I mean, he had a lathe. That was pretty cool, but the rest of it was pretty bad. And that's when we decided that we were going to quit the nomadic life. And we'd come find a piece of property and live off grid. And I remember when we decided to do this, there were a lot of people who thought, well, you said you were going to like the living in the national forest, but now you're saying you're going to live off grid. I can almost bet you in 2 years you're not going to like that either. Well, that's not true. We do like it because living here is exactly what we would hoped would have been like in the national forest. When we got here, we lived in that little camper for the longest time, and people always ask me, and I just made a video about this not that long ago. I'll put an up next box at the end of this video to that video if you want to watch it. But I talked about Carolyn and I living in tight confinement spaces. So we lived in the pop-up camper, and then we lived in the truck camper, which was even smaller than the pop-up camper. And then we moved into the tiny house. Finally, this seemed like a mansion. And still, it's pretty nice. I mean, there's things that I know Carolyn wishes she had, which now we got the camper and the shed. Things are starting to even get better for her, so it's not even that bad. But one of the things is that makes our relationship work is we have this unspoken rule that we have our own chores. And no matter what happens, we know that the chore is going to be done. One of the chores that I have is making coffee. It's just, I mean, ridiculous chore, but I know it's my chore. And I make 2 pots a day. So at night, about 7:30, I make a pot, and then in the morning, I assemble the pot, water and then coffee grounds, and then in the morning when I get up, I put it on the burner and it percolates. And then later, when that pot runs out, I make a second pot. I'm in tune to my job so much that if she takes the last cup out of the thermos, I recognize that I gotta make more coffee. I just go out and do it. And so like for breakfast, that's one of her, well, I guess cooking is one of her things. And I just know that but no later than 9:30, I'll have breakfast, and no later than 3:30, mostly 3, but no later than 3:30, I'll have breakfast, or supper, I should say. It's always there. I don't have to worry about it. And in those rare occasions when something happens, she doesn't feel well, and she misses breakfast or cooking, I know there's something wrong. It's just an indicator. Oh, there's something wrong. She didn't make supper or breakfast. But the reverse is true also. The other day I got really busy. I was late making the coffee. I make it about 7:30. I make it before I go to bed. And I don't know, 8 o'clock rolled around, and I'm still out there messing with the chickens or doing something. I can't remember what it was. And I came back, and the coffee pot had been made. She made it. She knew that there was something wrong. She knew that I was way past time. So she made it for me. When things like that happen, we just kind of jump in because we're just so in tune to each other. We know what's going on. We don't have to think about it. Getting back to her cooking, one of the things about her cooking is every meal seems to be better than the last one. And I say it all the time, man, this is the best thing you've ever made. And she says, how is that possible? You just said that yesterday. Well, it is. I mean, she can take the same hamburger and the same spices and make it completely different every time. And every time I say that, somebody says, well, give me the recipes. There is no recipe. Carolyn cooks to flavor. And she just does a fantastic job, and it's always getting better. Maybe I'll get hungry around noon or something. I'll put some chicken in the jar, warm it up. And I'll just put some bouillon. We got that better than bouillon stuff. Well, I'll just put that in there, and it's like, man, this is gross. When I used to love it, but she is such a good cook. And then she does the laundry. That's one of the things she does, and she does it regularly. And I never am out of clothes. As a matter of fact, again, the other day I got into my drawer, and I didn't have any socks. And I'm digging. And I'm not upset about it at all, not in the least. Is the sock still hanging on the line? She says, no, dang it, I forgot to do them the last time I was doing laundry. She said, I got distracted. And she told me whatever it is, what she was doing, and got distracted. Well, no big deal. I mean, I just took my socks, the pair I had on, into the shower with me. I don't know, somebody's probably going to say, oh, that's gross. And I was able to wash them in the shower. I just soap and water. And I hung them up, and within a couple hours they were dry, and I had socks. I mean, it's so unusual for these things to happen. I mean, it's always available. Just like when I do my chores, it's always there. One of the things that makes us so compatible is, like I was saying in the beginning of the video, we don't have to talk a lot. We don't need lots of attention. But one of the things that is key is neither one of us like to be around people too much. And so I don't even have this fear that she's going to say, hey, let's go do something. Or, I don't even have that concern. Or I don't have to get up the courage to do anything. Now, she has an actual mental illness, and it's considered a mental illness. Millions of people have these mental illnesses, depression and anxiety. Well, Carolyn has anxiety. Now, I have to tell you, it has gotten so much better since when I first met her. She was always under the anxiety button. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, I have anxiety, and, I get in the car and I panic, that's not anxiety. Anxiety is something where your chemicals in your brain, cortisol, go off and they don't shut off. They just keep going and keep going. So you're always in this flight or fight mode. Well, she's always in the fight mode. And her whole personality changes, and it's tough. It's tough. We've recently gotten on this meat diet, and her anxiety is basically gone. It's really not a big deal anymore. Well, one of the things that triggers her anxiety is going out into the public. She just hates it. So we have to go get her ID renewed. She hates going to the DMV. She just hates it. Well, last time I went, I got there before the doors opened. I stood in line and waited until the doors opened, and I could be like the third one in. And she says, I gotta go to the DMV. Okay, no problem. And comes up to me later and she says, and she was real hesitant, like I was gonna say no. And she says, can we go after the doors open so I have to stand in line? I don't want to stand in line. I just want to go in, sit down, take my number and sit down. Yeah, sure, no problem. I mean, so she even isn't aware of what's going to trigger it, so she doesn't even allow it to trigger her. It's the best relationship I've ever been in. We get through the troubles just by simply being ourselves. It's amazing. I don't, like I said, don't know how to explain it. This morning I identified she was missing. She's missing. As you know, Carolyn doesn't get on YouTube. She's been in one video. And I'm not going to see which one. It was a long time ago. And she hasn't been in one since. Now, occasionally, she'll be caught in the background. I try to edit her out when I see it. The thing is when I do an edit, the window is pretty small, the picture window, because there's a lot of little activities you got to do that takes up the entire screen. So sometimes I don't see her. Maybe she'll be in the window when I'm making a video, or she'll be in the background somewhere, and I'm just not even aware of it. But 99% of my videos, she's not in. Well, of course, I say down in the description, Carolyn and I. Well, I guess people assume that means that she's supposed to be in these videos. And she's not. This is my channel. Always has been. When I said, hey, can I make YouTube videos so we can make a living while we do these cool things in life? She said, yeah, sure, just please don't put me in it. I still can explain what it is she does around here without her having to be in the video. And the reason she doesn't want to be in the video is people are vicious towards her without people actually having ever seen her. I remember when her son came here to live. He was only here a couple of weeks, months, I guess. And the comment section treated him like dirt. The audience did not know his name, didn't know what he looked like, didn't know how old he was, didn't know anything about him other than it was Carolyn's son, and he was the worst person on the planet. How could it possibly be that he can't take care of his family? He's getting, and just on and on and on. I mean, he got a job like 2 days after he was here. Did a really great job, but they just abused him. Well, they do the same thing with Carolyn. Now imagine if she was on camera. People would just absolutely hate her. The thing is, it's one of two people that talk about Carolyn. It's the trolls, or it's the pervs, is the best way to put it. Have you ever seen one of these off-grid channels and they got a thumbnail of a half-naked woman? They've always got millions or hundreds of thousands of views. Always. Always. The video content is not that good. They don't teach you anything. But they got millions of views. Why is that? Well, it's because there's a naked woman in the video. Well, that's what they want with Carolyn. They're looking to see what she looks like. They want to fantasize while they sit in their keyboards. I mean, it's quite disgusting when you really think about why Carolyn gets beat up so bad when nobody has ever seen her. It's because they're just gross people. But Carolyn is not going to get on camera. She doesn't want to be on camera, and there's no expectation for her to be on camera. There are millions of people on this planet who do not want to be on YouTube. Why is it expected that Carolyn has to be on YouTube? Well, her name's in the description. Obviously, she's part of the family, part of the channel. Well, no, she's not. What she does around here has to be explained. I have to be able to talk about it so people know that who's doing my laundry. I mean, if I were to take credit for her laundry, that would be terrible. It's a lie. So no, she's missing from this channel. She always will be missing from this channel. If If you happen to see her in the background, I would appreciate it if you didn't say anything in the comment section, because it only stresses her out, stresses me out. It's like, and people will just attack it. Usually when somebody says anything about her, oh, I saw Carolyn in the background, I delete the comment. There's no reason to even focus on that. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was talking about batteries, so you can live off-grid and live your dreams. Thanks for watching.